My in-laws paid a man to crash our wedding and yell, "She stole my identity." I stood there frozen, still holding my vows. He waved a paper like it was gospel. My husband's face turned white. His mother smiled. They thought I'd break. But what they didn't know, I brought my own file. And I didn't come to lose. I remember the exact moment. My hands were shaking. The music had just stopped. And every eye turned to me. He was yelling like he meant it. She stole my identity. He even had papers. A fake marriage license. A forged affidavit. And just like that, my wedding turned into a courtroom. My husband didn't move, didn't speak, didn't look at me. But I saw his mother, Lorraine, smirking, like she'd waited years for this. I felt the heat rise in my chest. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a setup. And I knew exactly who wrote the script. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I breathed. I reached into my bag. And I pulled out the file. Because if they wanted a scene, I was going to give them one. I met Tobias at a conference in Chicago. We were both standing by the coffee table, reaching for the last blueberry muffin. He laughed, said we could split it or fight to the death. I liked his smile. It felt disarming. Kind. He was a graphic designer. Ran his own studio. I was managing brand strategy for a startup. We clicked quickly. Conversations turned into dinners. Dinners into weekends. And before I knew it, we were spending holidays together. He wasn't like the men I'd known before. He didn't interrupt. Didn't try to fix me. He listened. And I felt safe. After 7 months, he brought up moving in. He said he was serious about me. That his family would love to meet me. That should have been a red flag. I met his mother, Lorraine, during a brunch at her house. Her smile was tight. Her words measured. She asked about my job like she was checking my resume. What's your 5-year plan? Do you plan to stay in the industry? Do you expect Tobias to support you long-term? I answered politely, but I knew that look. I'd seen it before from investors who didn't believe in me. Except this was worse. Because she didn't want to invest. She wanted to undermine. His sister Camille was worse. She showed up late, didn't say hi. Sat across from me like I was already guilty of something. Then started throwing little jabs, all with a smile. Oh, you don't post much on social media. Hiding a double life? Wow, no baby pictures? That's rare. When I didn't respond, she leaned in and whispered, "You know, secrets have a way of surfacing in this family." I laughed it off. Tobias told me not to take it personally. They're just protective, he said. They did the same thing to my ex. That should have been red flag number 2. Still, I stayed. Because he stayed by me. Because after every awkward dinner, every icy brunch, he'd look me in the eye and say, "I'm not them." We moved in together after a year. He proposed 9 months later, quietly, at home, no cameras. It was exactly what I wanted. We planned a small wedding. Just close friends, some of his extended family. At first, Lorraine pretended to be happy. She offered to help, which meant she wanted control. She didn't like that I picked a venue outside the city. Didn't like that I wore a minimalist dress. Didn't like that I didn't ask for her opinion on the floral arrangements. Camille would accidentally forward emails where she mocked my choices. Sent them to Tobias. To me. To both. I told him. "Your family doesn't like me," he said. "They don't know you." I said. "They don't want to." He didn't argue. 3 weeks before the wedding, I noticed strange things. My name showing up in random searches on my LinkedIn. A spam email pretending to be a background check request. Then Camille left her iPad at our place after dinner. It was unlocked. I saw a draft email addressed to someone named Dean. The subject line said, "Script. Ceremony disruption." I didn't open it. Not yet. I told myself it could be anything. But my gut was screaming. So I started printing. Backing things up. Preparing just in case. The week of the wedding, Lorraine sent Tobias a long message. "You still have time to ask questions." I read it. He said she was just being cautious. I said, "Is she cautious or cruel?" He didn't answer. But he didn't stop the wedding either. That silence was enough. I knew I had to be ready. Because if they were coming for me, I'd meet them prepared. It was sunny. Almost too perfect. The kind of weather that makes people say, it's a sign. We got ready in separate suites. My dress was simple. No veil. No drama. Just me. My friends kept saying how calm I looked. But my hands were sweating. My heart kept skipping. We'd written our own vows. Kept the guest list small. 50 people, tops. Mostly friends. A few cousins. Lorraine sat near the front, in a navy dress with pearls. Camille wore white. Of course she did. The ceremony was in the garden. Rows of white chairs. A string quartet playing softly. Then silence. The officiant began. I took Tobias's hands. He smiled at me. Tight. Like he wasn't fully there. Then came the line. If anyone objects to this union. And someone stood up. Back row. A man. Wrinkled shirt. Uneven tie. Dark circles under his eyes. I object, he said. Loud. Clear. And then, louder. She stole my identity. That woman. She's my wife. It was like someone pressed pause on the whole world. No one moved. No one breathed. He walked down the aisle, holding a folder. His voice shaking, but his story rehearsed. We got married in Florida. 2016, she left. Never divorced. Now she's committing bigamy and identity fraud. I blinked. Tried to breathe. My knees nearly gave out. Tobias dropped my hands. He looked at me. Not confused. Not shocked. Just cold. Lorraine gasped. Put a hand to her chest. Camille leaned in and whispered something, then smiled like she'd won. I turned to Tobias. I've never seen this man before. My voice cracked. No one responded. Dean, if that was even his name, pulled out a paper, held it up like it was proof from God. A marriage certificate. I said nothing. I couldn't. Everything blurred. Faces. Flowers. The weight of 50 eyes. Then came the real gut punch. Tobias didn't defend me. Didn't ask questions. Just stared. At me. At the paper. At the man. That silence hurt more than the accusation. I felt exposed. Like a criminal. On my own wedding day, Lorraine stood up. Loud enough for everyone to hear. We warned you she was hiding something. Camille followed with. This whole wedding's a lie. And now the truth's out. I shook my head. Backed away from them. From him. I didn't cry. Not yet. I whispered. This is fake. No one cared. No one moved. The officiant looked horrified. I clutched my purse. My heartbeat in my ears. And somewhere beneath the panic, something sharp clicked into place. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was an ambush. And suddenly, it all made sense. The questions. The iPad. The script. They planned this. They planned everything. And I had brought a file of my own. I left the ceremony alone. No one followed me. No one called. I got in my car, still in my dress, still shaking. At a red light, I opened my purse. Pulled out the folder I'd packed, just in case. Back then, I didn't even know what I was protecting myself from. Now I did. 2 weeks before the wedding, Camille had left her iPad at our place. Unlocked. I saw an email draft she never meant for me to read. It was addressed to someone named Dean. The subject line said, Script. Ceremony disruption. I didn't open it then. I wanted to trust Tobias. I wanted to believe they'd never go that far. But my gut kept whispering. So I called the clerk of courts in the Florida county Dean mentioned. Gave them my info. Asked if there were any marriage records under my name. They got back to me 3 days later. There was an attempt. Someone tried to file a license under my name. But it was rejected. Because the ID didn't match. No photo. No signature. Nothing verified. A fake document. Filed using stolen information. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just public humiliation. It was identity theft. They weren't just trying to ruin my wedding. They wanted to destroy my name. I started digging deeper. Backed up Camille's email. Checked Tobias's laptop. He always left it unlocked. Found a saved folder titled Vows and Decor. Inside, screenshots of my driver's license. My heart dropped. They had access to everything. And then I found it. A Venmo receipt. From Lorraine to Dean. $5,000. Labeled IT consulting. Of course, it wasn't just a plan. It was a conspiracy. Funded, coached, executed. And I was supposed to be too stunned, too broken to fight back. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I didn't cry. Not that night. Not the next morning either. I went home, unzipped the dress by myself, and sat on the edge of my bed. Hair half pinned. Makeup streaked. Hands still trembling. But my mind, clear. They wanted chaos. They wanted me hysterical. Instead, I gave them silence. At 6 a.m., I made coffee, sat down at my desk, and started organizing. I made copies of everything. The email drafts, the fake certificate rejection, the Venmo receipt, screenshots of Tobias's folder, and a list of every question Camille had asked me in the months leading up to the wedding. There were patterns. She'd been fishing for details, my hometown, middle name, even the airline I used for my last work trip. Back then, I thought she was being nosy. Now I knew better. She was gathering intel. I called a friend of mine in cybersecurity. Told him just the basics. He helped me encrypt my files, back them up in 3 places. One cloud, one drive, one hard copy, printed, tabbed, ready. I wasn't just saving proof. I was building a case. Then, something unexpected happened. Dean, the man who crashed my wedding, called me. Blocked number. Tired voice. He sounded guilty. I didn't know they'd take it that far, he said. They told me you scammed Tobias. That you were dangerous. He paused. They paid me. I needed the money. But I still have the emails. Everything. I didn't speak. I let him talk. He confessed. Camille wrote the script. Lorraine coordinated the timing. They sent him screenshots of my ID, taken from Tobias's laptop. They told him to wait for the officiant's cue, then stand and accuse. I didn't even want to do it, he said. But I didn't think you'd have proof. I didn't think you'd fight. I told him to forward every message. He did. Within the hour, I had it all. I printed the thread. Not just the messages, but the metadata, dates, timestamps, IPs. Everything traceable. Everything admissible. Then I called a lawyer. I explained what happened. She didn't blink. You've got a hell of a case, she said. Defamation. Identity theft. Emotional damages. Civil conspiracy. I told her I didn't want revenge. I wanted protection. And accountability. We filed immediately. Restraining order against Dean. Cease and desist to Camille and Lorraine. Preservation notices for all digital evidence. Then I did one more thing. I printed a second folder. Sleeker. Labeled with my initials. And I mailed it to Tobias. No note. No threats. Just the truth. He needed to see what they'd done. And what I was prepared to do. I didn't expect a response. Didn't even care. This wasn't about saving the relationship. It was about saving myself. 2 days later, my boss called. She said someone had emailed HR, claiming I had a criminal record. They'd attached fake documents. But my boss didn't buy it. She called me directly. I know this isn't you, she said. If you want us to pursue this legally, we'll back you. That's when I realized. This wasn't just about a ruined wedding. This was war. And I was done playing defense. They wanted me humiliated, isolated, erased. Instead, I went methodical, relentless, focused. They came at me with lies. I answered with receipts. I didn't plan to see Tobias again. Not in person. Not after what happened. But a week later, he texted. Said his cousin was hosting a fundraiser. That his family would be there. That he had something to say. At first, I ignored it. Then I thought. No. Let them all be in one room. Let them hear the truth together. The venue was upscale. Wine glasses clinking. Laughter that sounded rehearsed. I walked in alone, wearing black. No smile. Lorraine saw me first. Her jaw locked. Camille turned and whispered something to a woman beside her. They laughed. But I didn't flinch. I walked straight to the front. Tobias was already at the podium. Sweating. Fidgeting. He tapped the mic. Before we start tonight, I need to say something, he said. Something personal. Something overdue. The room quieted. He took a breath. At my wedding, a man stood up and claimed my fiancé had stolen his identity. Many of you saw it. Many of you believed it. He paused. Looked at me. I did too for a second. Because I was scared. And I didn't trust the person I was supposed to know best. Then he turned to his family. My mother and sister hired him. They paid him. They wrote the script. They stole her information. And I let it happen. Gasps. A few shocked voices. Someone dropped a glass. Camille stood up. Ryan, this isn't the place. But he kept going. I've seen the proof. I've seen the messages, the payments, the photos. And it's not just this wedding. They've done this before. To others. He looked at Camille. You ruined every serious relationship I had. You lied. And I believed you. Lorraine stepped forward, snatched the mic. This woman poisoned you. She manipulated you. I stood up. Calm. Slow. Then said. What have I done, Lorraine? Other than love your son and stay silent while you tore me apart behind closed doors. She went quiet. And Tobias, finally, looked at her and said, No. You wanted to control me. You always have. But I'm done. Camille stormed out. Lorraine followed. And the room didn't defend them. They whispered. They stared. They finally saw. A woman came up to me after. Said. I believe them. I'm so sorry. Another hugged me. Whispered. You didn't deserve that. Tobias stood beside me. Quiet. Still. When we walked outside, he asked, Can we fix this? I didn't answer. Just said. Maybe. But not now. 2 days later, I got an email. No subject line. No name. Just a PDF attached. It was a transcript of Camille's text messages with Lorraine. From a burner phone. Dozens of them. Lines like, "Let her lose it in front of everyone. She deserves to break." And the one that stayed with me. "I don't care if she ends up in the psych ward. Ryan deserves better." I sat there, holding my breath. It wasn't just cruelty. It was precision. A campaign. I wasn't the only one they'd done this to. 3 days after that, a woman messaged me on Instagram. Said she recognized Tobias from a wedding video post. Said she dated him years ago. Then she said something that chilled me. When we broke up, Camille told his family I had a drinking problem. Said I hit him. It wasn't true. She offered to give a statement. So did another ex and then another. Camille had smeared them all. Some with fake emails. Others with edited texts. It wasn't about me. It was a pattern. I compiled everything. Dean's confession. The text messages. The Instagram outreach. The wedding crash video. Every woman willing to testify. My lawyer filed the civil case. Identity theft. Defamation. Conspiracy. Harassment. We even prepared for criminal charges, especially after Dean admitted he'd used my real driver's license number. Taken from a screenshot Camille pulled off Tobias's laptop. She'd waited until I left my bag near her. Snapped a picture. Used it to apply for a fake marriage license. Filed under my name. Without my consent. It wasn't just emotional abuse anymore. It was federal. Tobias texted again. Said he'd cut them off. Said he was sorry. That he'd been reading the files. Understanding more. I asked him one question. Did you ever tell them what they did was wrong? He didn't answer right away. Then. I tried. But they're still my family. I nodded. And replied. That's your choice. But I'm no longer part of that equation. The case was moving. The media hadn't caught it yet. But people were talking. And Camille, finally, was quiet. The house is quiet now. Too quiet some days. But not in a bad way. I've started sleeping again. Real sleep. The kind where you don't wake up at 3 a.m. Clutching your chest. Hearing voices that aren't there. I moved to a new apartment. Different neighborhood. New locks. New silence. Tobias stopped texting. Eventually. I think he finally understood. Some things can't be fixed with apologies. Not when they were silent during the worst moments of your life. Camille was served. So was Lorraine. Dean testified willingly. The other women sent in statements. The case is still ongoing. But I'm not waiting for a verdict to feel whole again. Healing didn't come all at once. It came in pieces. In the mornings I didn't feel afraid. In the walks I took without checking behind me. In the first laugh that didn't feel forced. Sometimes I still hear his voice. That man in the garden. Yelling I stole his identity. And sometimes I hear nothing at all. And that's the part one treasure most. Silence. Real silence. Not the kind filled with tension or fear, but the kind that feels like safety. People ask me if I still love Tobias. I don't know. Maybe a part of me always will. But I know this. He didn't stand up when it mattered. And that silence. It cost more than love ever gave. What I've learned is this. Peace doesn't come from fixing others. Or punishing them. It comes from choosing yourself. Even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. They tried to destroy me at the altar. Tried to turn my life into a cautionary tale. But I wrote a new ending. Not with revenge. Not with rage. Just truth. And the courage to walk away.